You've been pushing for so long that life feels stuck on repeat. Work, relationships, even your inner battles. No matter how hard you try, it feels like you're smashing against an invisible wall that just won't break. And maybe you've started to think, this must mean I'm failing. But what if it's the opposite? What if this pressure is not a sign of failure, but the proof that you're standing on the edge of transformation? Carl Jung believed that before the psyche makes a true leap, what comes first is not peace, but pressure. Frustration. Chaos. That suffocating weight you're feeling right now isn't a dead end. It's the crack in the wall before it bursts open. Think of it like this. Every time you've tried to change and the resistance grew stronger, that wasn't weakness. It was your brain fighting to protect its old patterns. Neuroscience confirms this. When the brain resists hardest, it means it's on the verge of rewiring. So, if it feels unbearable, that doesn't mean nothing is happening. It means everything is about to happen. Chaos is not the problem. Chaos is proof. This matters because most people quit right at the edge of transformation. They misinterpret the storm before the breakthrough as proof that nothing is working. But the truth is, it's the exact opposite. That unbearable tension you carry, the boredom, the endless cycles, the nights where you can't sleep and the days where nothing makes sense, those aren't signs of failure. They are signs of readiness. Think of marathon runners. They talk about hitting the wall. The body screams to stop. Every step feels impossible. But if they push through that wall, a second wind appears, a hidden energy that was locked until that very moment. Life works the same way. Psychologists call this post-traumatic growth. The very crises that seem to break us often reorganize us into something stronger, more resilient, more awake. Here's the danger. If you walk away now, you don't just pause the process. You reinforce the prison. The mind records, I resisted until the end and then I quit. That belief cements the cycle even deeper. So ask yourself, what if this discomfort is not the end of the path, but the proof that you are standing right at the door you've been waiting for? Because the stakes couldn't be higher. Either you resist and collapse, or you accept the rupture and rebuild. To quit at the threshold is to condemn yourself to repeat. Here's the brutal truth. Real breakthroughs don't arrive politely. They erupt like an earthquake under your skin. Jung called this the conflict between the ego, which clings to the known, and the self, which demands expansion. The ego doesn't want change. It holds on to old roles, fragile identities, outdated stories. But the self pushes for freedom. It wants growth. And when the pressure becomes unbearable, the ego cracks. Society calls this burnout, breakdown, or depression. But in depth psychology, this collapse is not an ending. It's the beginning of rebirth. Think of the caterpillar in the cocoon. From the outside, it looks like death. But inside, everything is dissolving and reorganizing. That's you right now. The chaos you feel is not punishment. It's preparation. Neuroscience tells the same story. Under intense pressure, the brain activates neuroplasticity, forcing old circuits to break so that new ones can form. What feels like destruction is actually the wiring of a new self. Jung explained that when the tension between opposites becomes unbearable, something unexpected emerges. A synthesis, a third way, what he called the transcendent function. Pressure becomes creativity. Collapse becomes reorganization. This is why resistance matters. The sabotage, the doubts, the endless obstacles, they're not there to destroy you. They're tests. They're proof you're close. Without resistance, there is no rupture, and without rupture, there is no rebirth. The storm is not your enemy. It's your teacher. Every raw emotion you feel, every night of restlessness, every impulse to give up, they are messages, symbols, signals that energy is building inside you. When you stop running from them and start listening, you turn pain into language. When you dare to act differently, even in the smallest way, you create cracks in the wall. When you express what you've kept repressed, you release the energy that has been locked inside you. And when you finally face the truth you've avoided, even if it's only one sentence whispered in the dark, you weaken the ego's grip and invite the self to step forward. And here lies the golden insight. You are not breaking down, you are breaking open. The first signs will not be fireworks. They will be quiet shifts, a calmer response in a moment of conflict. One night of deep sleep after weeks of chaos. A little less time wasted on distractions. These subtle changes are proof that the storm is doing its work, that the ego is losing its hold, and that the self is beginning to rise. The paradox is this: the very point where everything seems about to collapse is the same point where everything can turn. Jung called it an antiodromia, the reversal of extremes. When pressure pushes too far in one direction, it inevitably flips. And that is why the depth of your collapse is also the measure of your breakthrough. If this video found you, it's not by accident. Jung would call this synchronicity, the moment when an external event mirrors your inner state with such precision that it feels as if it was meant for you. This message is here because some part of you already knows it's time. The collapse you're experiencing is not an ending. What is crumbling is not you, but the prison you built around yourself. The identity you carried, the roles you played, the defenses you relied on, they are falling because they can no longer contain the person you are becoming. And what rises from that rupture is not a version of you adapted to survive, but one aligned to live fully. History shows us this truth again and again. Many of the world's most remarkable transformations were born in the shadow of collapse. Mandela's prison, Van Gogh's crisis, countless moments where despair preceded clarity. You are walking the same path, one that countless human beings before you have crossed. So take a deep breath. Feel the ground under your feet. Say it out loud if you must. I crossed through. This is not the time to run. It is the time to allow what must fall to fall, and to create space for what is already pushing to be born. The wall you have been pressing against is cracking. The breakthrough you thought was somewhere in the future is already happening. The future doesn't arrive in a flash of light. It leaks through the cracks you finally allow. Your next chapter has already begun. And if these words resonated, let them be the confirmation you needed. Subscribe, share your word in the comments, return to this message whenever the storm rises again. Because what comes after collapse is not emptiness. It is freedom,